Senator Jauch, Governor Walker premised the need for legislation on collective bargaining. He kept on saying the state is broke. I'd like you to comment on the veracity of that statement. And he kept on mentioning that besides our current fiscal year, the next biennium, $3.6 billion debt, and he needed a tool to deal with that. Could you comment on both of those?
Well, first of all, in terms of it's broke, there's one thing worse than a fiscal crisis, and that is when you're morally bankrupt. And I believe that during the finance hearings, I responded to that statement that we were broke. And I reminded him of a conversation I had with a business person in northern Wisconsin, who informed me that the business this person had was in real economic trouble. That the business was struggling not because of anything the state of Wisconsin had done, not because of any regulations, simply because of economic circumstances. And I asked this business person what that person was going to do. This is a big business. It hires a lot of people. That business person said, I'm going to meet with my employees. I asked that person what that person was going to ask from the employees. He said, I'm going to ask them what they want to contribute. That business person was broke, but he recognized the employees as equals in solving the problems. And the governor should be doing the same thing. So that's my answer to that. Second of all, in terms of the tools, public employees are willing to contribute more of their pension costs and their health care costs. They don't need to have their working condition rights. They don't need to have other rights taken away from them in this process. They are more than willing to contribute more financially, but want to be considered equals in the workplace, and they deserve that. And the final point is that the way the bill was passed demonstrates that Governor Walker only used the fiscal crisis as an excuse, and the fiscal repair bill as a vehicle to destroy workers' rights and attack the unions for political gain. And that became very clear. I'm going to take one more question, and then I'll be glad to be around. You've all been very patient. And all the way back, Sue's wearing the Wisconsin sweatshirt.
In the conversation about fairness, I read recently from a reputable source that in Wisconsin, back in 1968, or since 1968, the tax rate on the top 25% of Wisconsin's population has gone up or down by 70%. And conversely, on the bottom quarter of the population of Wisconsin, their tax rate has gone up 22%. But yet, we're the lower class is being asked to pay for this problem that has been created by everyone.
Well, that's certainly one of the issues, and we're reliving the early part of the 20th century, when Teddy Roosevelt and others and Bob La Follette were finally trying to seize government back from the corporates and the corporations and the banks and the wealthy, while the working class was suffering. Back to that question on property taxes, you look at the trend in the last 30 years, personal residential property taxpayers are paying 20% more for the property taxes, and businesses and corporations are paying about 20% less. So the shift that is occurring is that the people, small businesses and others, are paying a dear price to pay for our schools and our roads and our basic quality of life, while others are getting off the hook. No one likes to pay taxes, but what they like even less is when they have to pay their taxes and somebody else's taxes who don't want to pay taxes. And I think that's going to come out throughout this whole story. And there's an interesting provision. You talk about farmland. The governor is getting rid of a $12 million farmland preservation program, which puts more agricultural land in Wisconsin for sale, gives it to developers who don't care about the value of the land other than the dollar. And when we think about the loss of productivity to Wisconsin's agricultural community, it is rather frightening to me. Listen, I'll stay around. You've all been very nice, and it's wonderful to have you here. This is the first of many conversations we're going to have in this community on this issue and on the budget. And we'll make ourselves available. Continue to keep yourself engaged. And thank you very much for being here.